blood and blood vessels? What are blood vessels? What is your understanding of blood vessels?
Medium for carrying blood.
So what does that look like in the body? Okay, tubes. And what are the various blood vessels in our body?
Heart.
What are the names of the blood vessels in our body? I mean the basic.
Arteries.
Arteries, and smaller arteries are called arterioles. ಆಮೇಲೆ veins. Then smaller veins are called venules. ಆಮೇಲೆ ends of arteries, arterioles, veins, all this ends in what? You have done this, respiratory nerve. Capillaries. Capillaries are the end points of your all this. And capillaries are also an area where arteries and veins meet. And that's where the exchange of blood and oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. Okay? So capillaries are not only the end points, but they are also the connectors between the arteries and the veins. So this is the basic, your cardiovascular system, heart, blood and blood vessels. Humans, and in humans it is a closed circulatory system, means the blood flows in all these blood vessels. So there are certain open circulatory system where there are no blood vessels. In a closed system, blood is contained within vessels. Main components of a closed circulatory system are heart, blood and blood vessels. Okay, so how is the heart? Heart doesn't look like this. Okay. But in yoga, this is what we talk of, heart and heart chakra and all that, and all feelings associated with heart. But the actual heart is more of a conical shape. Okay, and the base of the cone is inferior, so it's slightly tilted also. The apex of the cone. This is called the apex of the cone. This is the base of the cone. So the base of that heart is slightly superiorly placed, and the apex is inferior. The heart is a conical, hollow, musculo-tendinous organ. Okay, so it's full of muscles and tendons. It is conical and it is hollow. It lies in the thorax. Thorax means what? Thorax means what? Chest. Chest area is called thorax. So the heart lies in the thorax between the lungs and behind the sternum. Which is your sternum? Yes, that flat bone in the center of your chest. That is called the sternum. And from the sternum, what arises on either sides? The ribs. Yeah. So the heart is behind the sternum, between the lungs, conical, full of muscle and tendon, and it is hollow. And it's about 10 centimeters long, weighs about 300 grams. The base of the heart is above. So the base of the heart is inferior, superiorly placed. And the apex is below. The heart lies in the thorax between, done that. It lies obliquely. So it's slightly slanting, the heart. It's directed more towards the left side rather than the right. So it's directed more towards the left rather than the right. Apex of the heart lies at the level of the 5th intercostal space. What is the intercostal space? Come on. The apex of the heart lies at the level of the 5th intercostal space. Yes. What is intercostal space? The space between each rib is called intercostal space. So it lies at the level of the 5th intercostal, 9 centimeters to the left of the midline. Okay. So since it is slightly located, tilted to the left side, The left lung is slightly smaller to accommodate the lung, to accommodate the heart. Okay? Base,
Is it equally efficient here right now?
yes, they are both equally efficient. It's just that this one is slightly smaller. The base extends to the level of the second rib. So from the fifth intercostal to the second intercostal is the extent of the heart. From the fifth rib to the second rib. Second rib is somewhere here. Now the chambers of the heart, you know, I think the 4 chambers. Okay. So I am just drawing a schematic picture of the lung, of the heart for. So this would be your heart, divided into 4 chambers. Okay, so this will be your right atrium, this will be your right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. So these are the 4 chambers of the heart. Okay, so atrium is the upper chamber, then ventricle is the lower chamber. Atrium, singular is atria. Also it is called auricle, the other name for atrium. And V is ventricle. Okay, so these are the 4 chambers of the heart. The 2 chambers on the right side are known as right atrium, right ventricle. 2 chambers on the left side are called left atrium and left ventricle. The 4 chambers are divided by 2 septa, interatrial septum. So here you have like a wall. You have a wall which divides this right atrium from the left atrium. This is called the interatrial septum. Septum means division or wall. Interatrial septum, and here also between the ventricles also you have another wall. Why do you have these division walls like this? Interventricular septum. So why do you have these 2 walls between the auricles and between the atria and the ventricles?
Blood circulation, because your blood is I think coming from the left atrium, I'm not sure. So
No, it's so that there is no mixing of blood between these 2 sides.
pure blood and
One is oxygen.
Yes. So there should be no mixing of blood. Okay. Then next is the heart, arteries and veins form the circulatory system. Heart pumps blood into the arteries. Arteries divide and subdivide and finally end in capillaries. Okay. The capillaries later unite to form veins. Veins return the blood to the heart. So this is what happens. You have the heart. The heart pumps the blood into the arteries.
Does the heart cleanse the blood as well?
Huh?
Does the heart cleanse blood?
No, it doesn't cleanse the blood.
But why does it have good oxygen rich and oxygen rich?
Yeah, the lungs do the function of cleansing. So the heart pumps the blood to the arteries. The arteries carry the blood to all parts of the body. Then the arteries end in capillaries. Then capillaries join to form veins. And the veins bring the blood back to the heart. So this is what happens. Okay. So you have heart which pushes the blood into the arteries when the heart pumps. Arteries take blood to all parts of the body and arteries end in capillaries. Capillaries join to form bigger veins and veins bring the blood back to heart. So this is one type of circulation. This is the connection between arteries and veins. So it's not like arteries are running separately one direction, the veins are somewhere else. No, they do meet at the capillaries. And the heart and the capillaries help to connect the arteries and the veins. So this itself, if you see, this is called a closed circulation. like a closed circuit. Okay. And as a rule, generally arteries carry pure blood away from the heart. So if you remember A for artery, A for away. So arteries take pure blood away from the heart. As a rule, there is one exception though, we will see later. So generally arteries take pure blood away from the heart, and veins, they bring impure blood to the heart from all other parts of the body. So arteries carry blood from heart to all parts of body, they carry pure blood. Veins, they bring the impure blood from all the parts of the body back to the heart. Okay, cardiac cycle, function of the heart is to, what does the heart have to do? It has to maintain, always the heart has to make sure blood is being supplied to the whole body. Why does blood have to be supplied to whole body? Because it carries oxygen, nutrients, also it has to remove the waste product. Even carbon dioxide is removed only via the blood through the deoxygenated blood, and then you exhale out also. So it also acts as a waste disposer. Okay, also carrying nutrients. Also parts of the blood help in fighting, building up your immunity, fighting infections, etc. through the white blood cells. Okay, so that's the reason why the heart has to constantly keep pumping that blood throughout the body. Okay. Now apart from this is for the whole body. The heart itself has its own system of circulation. Okay, so that is called coronary system. Coronary means anything with the prefix coronary, or the word coronary means related to the heart. So coronary arteries are blood vessels of the heart circulation which supply the heart. Okay, so which transport oxygenated blood to the substance of the heart. The heart itself needs nourishment, right? So that is provided by the coronary arteries, which provide oxygen-rich blood to the heart itself. And the left coronary artery, so there are various names of arteries and veins, don't have to learn any of those except one or two. The left coronary artery and the right coronary artery are the two main arteries which supply the heart. And based on the area of the heart, they provide circulation for. So each artery and vein supplies a different area of the heart. You have epicardial artery, which is above the epicardium or outermost tissue of the heart. So there is one artery which supplies the outermost layer of the heart, which is called the epicardial artery. Then there is one more artery called the microvascular artery, which supplies close to the inner portion of the heart, called the endocardium. Okay. So just remember that there is something else apart from the circulating blood around the body. You have something called a coronary circulation, which helps to nourish the heart. Okay. So what are the functions of the cardiovascular system? So you just see this word cardiovascular. Cardio means heart and vascular means blood vessels. So a combination of heart and blood vessels. No, I finished. So combination of heart and blood vessels makes up this system, not just heart. Okay. So what are the main functions of this CVS? To provide tissues of the body with oxygen and nutrients. So oxygen and nutrient transport. Then the superior and inferior vena cava bring venous blood from various parts of the body to the heart. Okay, so now we'll talk about the circulation. Okay. So what we call as the cardiac cycle, how the heart pumps blood to the body. So you have two big veins called superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. So superior vena cava, now in anatomy, It will always be as if you are looking at the patient or you are looking at the person. So this is not my left, this is your left. Okay, so you don't label this as right atrium, this will be left atrium, because I am looking at you as a patient. Now this is all, think of it as anatomy and medicine, where we are dealing with a patient, or here in this case we are dealing with a student. So it will be mirror image. So this will be left atrium. Okay, now the circulation, how the blood pumps, it starts like this. Superior, the two great veins, superior and inferior vena cava, bring deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. Deoxygenated matlab blood without oxygen.
And nutrients.
Nutrients you forget now, because that we are doing only heart. So deoxygenated blood comes into the from all parts of the body. This impure, now don't use the word impure blood, I am just using it for purpose of convenience, but when you are writing your answer, please write deoxygenated blood. So from all parts of the body, impure blood comes into the right atrium, and from the right atrium, this impure blood goes into the right ventricle. Okay, so this is a passive process. The heart does not need to actively pump for this. Now from the right ventricle, you have valve here called the semilunar valve. The blood has to be now pushed, okay, to go into the pulmonary artery which goes to the lung. What happens in the lung to this blood? It will get purified, oxygenated. Okay, now for the heart to beat, okay, for the blood to go from here to here, heart does not have to do any work, because it's going by the natural flow of gravity. Now here also there is a valve which will open and the blood will naturally flow. But for the blood to go from right ventricle to the lungs via the pulmonary artery, the heart has to actively pump. Okay, and this valve, semilunar valve, has to open for the impure blood to go to the pulmonary artery. And this is where this is called a systole. Heartbeat, you have two sounds, lub and dub, contraction and relaxation of heart. So that phase when the heart contracts, that is what is happening is the blood is going from RV to pulmonary artery. There does not require any work for the heart to be done, for the heart to go from here to here, for the blood to go from here to here. But the blood to go from ventricle to pulmonary artery to the lung, it has to pump actively. That is called your contraction or the systole of the heart. So muscular work has to be done. And the phase when the blood flows from here to here, or when it flows from here to here, that is the resting phase of the heart, called the diastole. You have seen this BP 120 by 80, na? So this is called systole and this is called diastole. So this is the phase when the heart contracts. That is when the blood goes from right ventricle or when it goes from left ventricle into the great arteries. The phase when the heart relaxes is called the diastole. That is the time when the blood flows from the auricles to the ventricles. So that is basically what is going on in your heart contraction. So now impure blood has gone from the ventricles to the lung via the pulmonary artery. Blood gets oxygenated in the lungs, then it has to again come back. So via the aorta, great artery, okay, so the right ventricle sends blood to the lungs through the pulmonary trunk, which divides into right and left pulmonary arteries. Blood gets oxygenated in the lungs, and then oxygenated blood is carried by a pulmonary vein to the left atrium. So here you have a pulmonary vein. So after your blood gets oxygenated, comes back to the heart via the pulmonary vein. pulmonary vein brings oxygen-rich blood into the left atrium. From left atrium, blood flows passively into the left ventricle. Then from left ventricle has to go to various parts of the body via the aorta. Aorta will take this oxygen-rich blood into all parts of the body. Okay? Any doubts here? Okay. So I just go through this very quickly once again. Impure blood from all parts of the body enters the heart through the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava into the right atrium. Blood flows passively by opening of these valves from RA to RV. Then from RV, the heart starts to contract into systole and semilunar valve opens. The blood flows from RV to the pulmonary artery, goes to the lung for oxygenation. Once the lungs purify the blood, that oxygen-rich blood comes back to the heart via the pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein brings the blood enters the left atrium, goes passively to the left ventricle. Then again another phase of systole where semilunar valve opens, oxygen-rich blood goes via the aorta to various parts of the body. So this is your circulation. Okay. So for this, the heart has to, the heart muscle has to keep continuously be contracting rhythmically. The cardiac cycle is the sequence of events which occur in the heart. So this is called cardiac cycle, and the events which occur in one beat.
Like 4 events, is it?
Yes, 4 events. 4 events are basically 2 big events coming in and then going out. That's it. The purification takes place in the lungs. Okay, so coming in will be diastole, then going out will be systole, the phase of contraction.
Would it be the same between right and left? Would the going out be the same amount?
Yes, it is all. I don't know exactly how many millimeters of mercury pressure and all that, but the process is the same. Yes. The cardiac cycle, what I would think is because this blood is oxygen rich, so more pressure would be required to pump the blood from left ventricle to the aorta because the blood is oxygen rich. So it may be just a difference of a few millimeters of mercury. The left ventricle contracts and says blah blah blah. Okay. So cardiac cycle is the sequence of events which occur in the heart during a single beat. So you need to know what a cardiac cycle is. Definition as well as the sequence. Okay, cardiac cycle definition. And if you want, you need to know, not if you, you need to know what are the names of the valves also. So right atrium to right ventricle, this valve is what? Valve is like a trap door.
One side.
One side, yes, it goes in one side like a flap door. So that's called a valve. This valve is called the tricuspid valve. This diagram is very nice. This also will help you understand or become more clear with what the cardiac cycle is. So this is called the tricuspid valve. And this valve is called the bicuspid valve. Tricuspid valve, right ventricle, then pulmonary semilunar valves they are called. Semilunar lunar andre like a moon. So it's like some slight, he says crescent shaped valves. Then goes into the pulmonary trunk, which is the pulmonary artery and the lungs. Then you have pulmonary arteries. Yeah, that is finished. Then lung pulmonary circulation, okay. Then pulmonary vein is here, left atrium. Here you have the bicuspid valve. Okay. Then you have the left ventricle. Here you have what is called the aortic semilunar valve. Aortic semilunar valve. This is called aortic semilunar valve. This is called pulmonary semilunar valve. Aortic semilunar valve takes the oxygen-rich blood to aorta, goes to coronary arteries.
What is the capacity of that? At what one particular point in time?
Yes, we will see all those details. We will see it just next week. Coronary arteries, heart tissue, then coronary sinus, cardiac veins, goes back to the right atrium. Okay, now the heart rate is between 60 to 90 normally. With an average rate of 72. And time taken for one beat is 0.8 seconds. Okay.
So by one beat, you mean the whole cycle?
Systole and diastole, yes. So cardiac cycle is the sequence of events which occurs during a single beat, and then heart rate is number of beats per minute. So that will be 60 to 90, and one beat takes 0.8 seconds. Okay. So all this whole thing, every 0.8 seconds it is happening. So that is one beat. Like that, 60 to 80 to 90 beats per minute. Okay.
So is it healthier if the beat is anywhere like should it be less? Or
No, it should not be less. It should not be more either.
Okay.
Both are not good.
Your heart is working
No, beating more beats also not good. Less is also not good.
If your heart is comfortable beating slower, then it should be good. Right?
No, it has to be within 60 to. There are parameters of the body which has to be maintained. So there is a reason why the numbers are there. So that's why such a wide range has been given. 60 to 90 itself is a wide range. Whether you are, whatever your age is. So that's a pretty good this thing for your body to balance. The cardiac cycle occurs in two phases, systole, which means a period of contraction, diastole, which means a period of relaxation. So he is just repeating what I have told the whole thing, just going through it again. To start with, the blood from the veins fills the two atria. Superior and inferior vena cava fill the right atrium, pulmonary veins fill the left atrium. This is followed by a wave of contraction in the atria, leads to emptying of atrial blood into the respective ventricles.
So they happen in parallel? Both of them allow blood at the same time?
When the ventricles are full, they contract, and now the blood present in the ventricles is forced into systemic and pulmonary circulation. Systemic means to all parts of the body, pulmonary circulation means only to the lungs. Okay? At this stage, the semilunar valves, they open, the atrioventricular, at the same time the atrioventricular valves are open. So, like everything is happening simultaneously. These valves are opening, these valves are also, these valves are closed, there is a typing error there. At the same time, the atrioventricular valves are closed, not opened. Okay, when these two valves open, these two valves remain shut. Okay?
Point number 3.
No, point number 3, there is a small typing mistake. At the same time, the atrioventricular valves are closed, not opened. Then he again repeats that sentence and he corrects himself. This period of muscular contraction of the heart is called systole. This is followed by a period of relaxation called the diastole, during which there is no contraction. Okay. is coming to the pulse. So the main terms are cardiac cycle, heartbeat, and then what is a heartbeat? That is the sequence of events which occur during one cardiac cycle is called a heartbeat. Then next term you have to know is heart rate, number of beats per minute. So you just need to know those numbers, and then how long does one heartbeat take. And then you also need to know what is systole and what is diastole. The period of contraction of the heart is called systole. The period when the heart relaxes is called diastole. Now coming to next, pulse. Pulse is a throbbing sensation felt over the walls of arteries. It's defined as the pressure difference transmitted in the form of a wave over the arterial walls. So a throbbing sensation felt over the walls of the arteries is called a pulse. So usually we feel the pulse here, no? Yeah, so you just have to listen very closely and feel your pulse. Yeah, you can feel the throbbing. Yes. You can feel the finger lifting. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Next is heart rate. So pulse is throbbing sensation felt over the walls of the arteries. Okay. Next is heart rate. Normal resting heart rate for adults is 60 to 100 beats per minute. Heart rate is 60 to 100 beats per minute. Yeah. The wrist is the common site where the pulse is usually felt. At this site, the radial artery. So what you are feeling here is called the radial artery at your wrist. It's very superficial. This pulse is also called the radial pulse. Remember radius and ulna, those bones. So radial artery is where you feel your pulse, because the artery is very superficial. If the artery was very deep, you cannot feel the pulse. So it's very close to your skin. Yeah. Other arteries where a pulse can be felt are the carotid artery. Where could the carotid artery be? In the neck. Yeah. So you can feel your pulse there also. Okay. Facial artery and temporal artery. So also in the face you have facial and temporal arteries where you can feel your pulse, but most commonly it's the radial artery. In case of fever, the rate of pulse increases at the rate of 10 per every rise of 1 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, 10 heartbeats, or the rate of pulse increases at the rate of 10 for every rise of 1 degree Fahrenheit. Yeah, 10 beats it will increase. For every 1 degree Fahrenheit increase in temperature. Generally veins don't exhibit pulsations. The only vein which exhibits pulsation is the jugular vein, again in the neck, which is nearer to the heart. So generally you don't feel pulsations in your veins. Remember the definition, then you will not get confused. So pulse means throbbing sensation over the walls of the arteries. So veins are generally not felt. Pulse we don't feel in the veins. Okay. Cardiac output, amount of blood pumped by the heart per minute. Okay. Cardiac output is the product of heart rate. Heart rate is what? That's 60 to 90 beats per minute, which is the number of beats per minute, and the stroke volume, which is the amount pumped per beat. So approximately per beat, I think 5 liters is being pumped. So you multiply that heart rate 60 to 90 multiplied by 5. Stroke volume is the amount of blood ejected per beat of heart. It's about 70 ml. Okay, per beat of heart 70 ml. So every mixture about 5.4040 liters of blood is pumped by the heart. Okay, so
What does every mixture do? Every minute, I think.
every minute every second.
17 to.
Cardiac output is equal to heart rate multiplied by that stroke volume. So heart rate is at 60 to 90, okay, and stroke volume is the amount pumped per beat. So per beat 70 ml is being pumped. So 60 to 90 beats multiplied by that 70 ml. So approximately cardiac output is 5 liters, 5.040 per minute. Okay, cardiac output is equal to heart rate into stroke volume. Stroke volume is the amount of blood pumped per beat. So what are the terms so far we have learned? The main terms we have learned about heartbeat, heart rate, yes, very good. Cardiac cycle, first one. Then we have learned heart rate. Pulse. Pulse is the pressure over the walls of the arteries. Okay. Then heart rate we have learned. Yeah. Then we come to cardiac output, and we also learned what is stroke volume. Okay. Per beat. Yes. So remember, cardiac output would be the amount per minute. Okay. Amount of blood is there in the first sentence itself. The amount of blood pumped by the heart per minute. So very important this is. Coming to cardiac so what are the factors which influence this cardiac output? So blood pressure is the main thing. What is blood pressure? It is the lateral pressure. Lateral means what?
Along the line of blood vessel.
Lateral means sideways. That pushing along the sides of the walls of the artery. Okay, so not this way. So you have your artery going like this. The pressure applied along the walls of the artery is called the blood vessel. Is called the blood pressure. It's the lateral pressure exerted by the blood on the blood vessels. Okay, so as the blood gushes through the vessels, it exerts that force which pushes the walls of the artery or the vein outwards. That is called your blood pressure. It's normally expressed as arterial pressure. It has two phases. Systolic. So obviously in the systolic phase of contraction, the pressure going into the arteries would be more. It's the maximum pressure occurring during systole of the heart rate from 100 to 120 millimeters of mercury. Then diastolic blood pressure is the minimum pressure exerted during the relaxation period of the heart, that is between 60 to 80 millimeters of mercury. Okay, easy to understand.
When you keep that BP measuring machine, do you see the both side of fluctuations, or there must be a single uniform pressure?
No, you can measure systole as well as diastole.
So there are two different equipments to that.
No, only one equipment. You measure both.
It comes as divided 150 by 80.
Both comes.
Pulse pressure is the difference between, very simple, another term you have to remember is pulse pressure. Difference 120 divided by 80, subtract the 2, that is your pulse pressure.
What happens if this is a lot? Is there a significant
Pulse pressure, I have to check out, it must be, some conditions must be there. So
So when the blood pressure is more, your heart is working too hard. That is why it is not good in long run.
What's it? 1 minute. Just give me a minute. So basically, see, he'll put the, these days you have machines, yeah, digital, but I think the old one gives a good reading, manual. So you put the cuff around the arm, and then slowly the pressure is increased every 2 millimeters of mercury. Then once it increases up to and then he puts on the stethoscope, the doctor, and then he'll be listening to the sound. As he keeps increasing, initially as he keeps increasing the pressure, there will be no sound heard. But at one point, when it reaches that 120 millimeters of mercury, assume, you will be hearing sounds. So that will be recorded as systole. Once he records the systole, he will again start decreasing the pressure by unscrewing. And he will continue to listen to hear the sound till at one point no sound is heard. So that becomes your diastole. So that is how BP is recorded in a manual thing called the sphygmomanometer. It requires a very good listening.
And that if they increase that
if you increase too fast, you can't hear, you will lose it. You have to be very careful, every 2 millimeters.
it's very engaging to use that.
Okay, so factors affecting blood pressure. So the first one would be blood volume. Okay, factors. What is blood pressure? Like we said, the lateral pressure exerted on the walls of the vessels, of the arteries. On blood vessels, not just arteries. But it's normally expressed as arterial pressure. Okay, so blood volume is the total amount of blood in circulation. A sufficient amount. So obviously, if you have less blood in the body, your blood pressure will fall. For any reason, if you have severe hemorrhage or something, okay, BP may fall. So amount of blood determines your BP, number one. Then cardiac output. What is, we saw cardiac output, that is the heart rate multiplied by stroke volume. So your cardiac output, that 5 liter, is the quantity of blood pumped by the heart in 1 minute. It's the product of stroke volume and heart rate. An increase in the stroke volume increases systolic blood pressure. An increase in cardiac output increases both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So if stroke volume alone increases, okay, systolic blood pressure will increase. Whereas if cardiac output increases, both systolic and diastolic pressure will increase. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Systolic pressure will increase when only the stroke volume increases, and both will increase when cardiac output increases. Number 3 is peripheral resistance. It is the resistance offered by blood vessels for the flow of blood. Resistance is offered mainly by small blood vessels, especially the arterioles. So we are almost done. I know you are all low on sugar. Okay. So peripheral resistance is the resistance offered by blood vessels for the flow of blood. So if resistance is more, what will happen to BP? Of course, more the resistance, more the BP. Resistance offered mainly by small blood vessels, especially the arterioles. Number 4 is elasticity of the blood arterial walls. So if there is less elasticity, there will be more blood pressure. When does elasticity of arterial wall reduce? With age. Okay.
There is some kind of
So
cholesterol is more
good. So it's not just your skin that sags with age, it's also everything else. Arterioles, arteries, everything, they lose their elasticity. So BP will fall, BP will increase. Elasticity of arterial wall distends the aorta. So when elasticity goes, the aorta, okay, distends the aorta when the ventricle contracts. This elastic recoil, the elastic recoil when the ventricle relaxes. This recoil pushes the blood onwards. The decrease in elasticity, as in atheroma, produces a rise in blood pressure. The diameter of the diameter of the lumen of the blood vessel can be altered by narrowing of the lumen, increases the resistance to blood flow, and this increases blood resistance to blood flow and increases blood pressure. Enlargement of the lumen has opposite effect. Lumen means what? Lumen is the that opening of the blood vessel. So what he is saying is, when the elasticity reduces, the blood pressure increases, and then for any reason, if this opening becomes narrow, the blood pressure will increase. That's all he is saying. So this opening is called the lumen. So 4 factors which affect blood pressure are the blood volume, cardiac output, then the peripheral resistance, which is offered by small blood vessels, especially arterioles, and number 4 is elasticity of the arterial walls. And also you have viscosity. 5th factor is your thickness of the blood or the stickiness of the blood. Viscosity is stickiness. Okay. So the viscosity of blood depends on plasma proteins and number of red blood cells. Depends.
So it's why the blood can stick, for example. How is
Clotting.
So it came from heart problem?
Yes, good point. Heart problems, so blood clots, so increase of blood pressure.
Yes.
The viscosity of blood depends on plasma proteins and the number of RBCs. An increase in viscosity increases the blood pressure. Okay, so 5 factors.
Why would the blood's viscosity increase?
The stickiness of the blood can increase, she said, no, forming of blood clots. So that is one of the conditions which can cause the blood to clump, and it will increase blood pressure.
And then can be stroke for example.
Yeah. And sometimes it can, RBCs can stick together to form a clot. It will stay there in the blood vessel and it will block the flow of blood, and that can increase blood pressure.
Even very high consumption of protein and steroids increases thickness of. So overdose of steroid causes heart attack. People who take steroids then have angina. Thickness of blood happens and leads to heart attack.
Okay. Coming to disorders of blood vessels, you have a condition called arterio. So the number 1 and number 2 spellings are very similar. So not to get confused. First one is arteriosclerosis, the next one is arteriosclerosis. So yeah, arteriosclerosis is thickening, hardening and loss of elasticity. The meanings are also very similar actually. First one is thickening, hardening and loss of elasticity of the walls of the arteries. And it gradually restricts the blood flow to one's organs and tissues. The number 2 one is arteriosclerosis, which is a thickening of the walls alone, not loss of elasticity or anything else. Thickening only due to fat deposition, like you said. The second one is cholesterol related. Okay? Deposition of fat and white blood cells is called arteriosclerosis. And the second one, you have deposition of fat, whereas there is no deposition of fat in the first one, in the arteriosclerosis. Okay? So these are the 2 big disorders. That is disorder of blood vessels. So heart diseases can be of various factors. Either it is because of the defect of the blood vessel, or it could be because of blood pressure defect. Okay? So the valvular defect, we call it, is
Is there any way to recover these things naturally?
I think there are medicines to this thing. For cholesterol, yeah, of course.
No, I'm asking without medicine, in yoga, if you do pranayama.
No, if there is a heart block, it has to be treated only. It cannot, heart blocks and all that cannot be removed with yoga. So if there is a block, yeah, it has to be treated by a surgeon.
I heard that.
You can do preventive measures, not these kind of, yeah.
I think treatment should not be encouraged through yoga anyway, right?
No, there is yoga therapy is there, but definitely not for a condition like arteriosclerosis and all that. No. Valvular defects, I don't think. It has to be done only by a surgeon. But definitely prevention can be done. You can, since we are doing all this, circulation can be improved. Okay. Then disorders of blood pressure. So under diseases of the heart, you will have valvular defects, the first one, that is blood vessel defects. Then you have disorders of BP. Under that, the 2 main ones that you are aware of, hyper and hypotension. Hypertension is a rise in BP above normal. It's difficult to define the average normal blood pressure. 30 years back, 40 years back, they used to say 120 by 80 and that's it. But now it's a big range. Okay? It varies from one age group to the other. In the BP in an adult may be 120-80. Hypertension has a strong relation with lifestyle, regardless of gender and socio-economic status. The systolic blood pressure greater than or equal to 140. So generally if it is more than or equal to 140 it is considered, and greater than or equal to 90 is considered hypertension. Okay. Still we have a broad range. And even then, under what conditions? So even if you are a normal adult in your productive years, if you have had a heated argument or something, and then your doctor comes in to take your blood pressure, it will be very high. So give yourself some time to cool down and relax. The BP will come back to normal. Okay. So above 140 or above 90. 140. So this. Okay. So anything above these two is considered hypertension. And hypertension is a big, that's what he's saying, no? It's a big major public health challenge in developing countries. Even though a wide range of antihypertensives are developed and prescribed for the management of hypertension. Hypertension is a major risk factor for stroke, MI, vascular diseases. Vascular andre, what does vascular mean? Anything to do with the blood vessel. Yeah, vascular disease and kidney disorders.
Why kidney disorders?
Because kidneys also help to maintain the blood pressure.
Okay.
And what is this myocardial?
Yeah, that is what we call as a heart attack. Okay, we just go through all those 4 terms very quickly. First one is stroke. Okay. Stroke is also called a CVA, cerebrovascular accident. Okay. Any part of the brain, if there is no blood supply, then it results in a stroke. That much you can just know. Preventing the brain tissue from getting oxygen and nutrients, that results in a stroke. Brain cells begin to die in minutes. Okay, like we saw in this nervous system chapter, nerve cell, once it dies, it will not grow. That's the only cell in the body which will not regenerate. And stroke, the quicker the treatment, the better the recovery. Because nerve cells, the more they die, nothing can be done to regenerate. Only physiotherapy can reconnect different parts of the brain. But what is lost is lost. You can only make different other connections. Other new connections can be made, but what is lost is gone. So that is stroke. Stroke can be one big side effect of high blood pressure. Okay. Then next one is myocardial infarction. Myocardial infarction is what you call commonly as the heart attack. Usually occurs when blood clot blocks the blood flow to the heart. Blood clot only in the blood vessel. Any blood vessel which has a blood clot blocks the flow to the heart, results in a heart attack or a myocardial infarction. Without blood, tissue loses oxygen and dies. It is treatable. And usually short term it will resolve within days to weeks, but it needs quick emergency care. So that's the thing with the heart attack, no? If it can be treated quickly, person will survive, otherwise dies, yeah.
Sometimes if in stroke people get paralyzed in one
Yes,
side,
yes.
after a long time physio they again come back to their real normal life. So in that case also nerves are not regenerated.
Those nerves which died, no, in the time when the oxygen supply was cut off, those nerves which died, they will not grow again. But through physiotherapy, different neuronal connections are made which helps the patient to start moving again. What is gone is gone. New connections, new nerve cells will not grow again. What I am saying is pre-existing nerves, new connections are made, which will help the patient to start walking or talking. Okay. Yeah, so quickly going through that heart attack. A heart attack occurs when blood flow decreases or stops to a part of the heart. So when blood flow to the heart decreases or stops, that is called a heart attack. And what is the most, and it causes damage to heart muscle. Most common symptom is chest pain. So these things you can, it will be helpful for you if you have somebody at home who is elderly. Chest pain. Discomfort, you must have heard, no? Discomfort may travel to the shoulder, arm, back of neck, jaw, left side usually, but not necessarily always left. Okay? Often it occurs in the center or left side of the chest and lasts for more than a few minutes. Discomfort may occasionally feel like heartburn. Other symptoms: shortness of breath, nausea, faint, cold sweat or feeling tired. And women more often present without chest pain and instead have neck pain, arm pain or feel tired. Among those over 75 years old, 5% have had an MI with little or no history of symptoms. It may happen even if you are very fit and fine after 75. Yes. An MI may cause heart failure, an irregular heartbeat, cardiogenic shock or cardiac arrest. So these are other complications of heart attack. Risk factors of heart attack: high BP, okay, smoking, diabetes, lack of exercise, obesity, high blood cholesterol. How would you diagnose this?
How do you exercise?
Treadmill, huh? Yes. ECG, echocardiogram, treadmill, all that. Okay. But don't put him on a treadmill when he's sweating and having a heart attack. So, when he's normal, you can put him on the treadmill, yeah. Even this angiography. All that. Then next one is what? Vascular diseases. Okay, so your question, how does kidney affect blood pressure? It does.
The kidney cleanses the water from the body also. Yes.
Yes.
So that creates the
Sodium
pressure.
potassium balance is what kidney does mainly. Yes, the kidneys remove waste products and excess water from the body and so help to regulate blood pressure. They activate vitamin D, which helps to maintain, this is not about BP, it just... So basically they are removing the waste products and the water, excess water from the body. If water accumulates, then BP will increase. Because why? Because blood is mainly made of water. Then hypotension. Hypotension is low blood pressure, which can be physiological in health, during rest and in elderly. So to answer your earlier question, people may be naturally hypotensive when they are completely at rest, or elderly people, they may have naturally low BP. Mostly it occurs as a complication of other diseases like shock, myocardial infarction, even dehydration. When you have lost a lot of water, vomiting, dehydration, all that can lead to low BP. And hemorrhage. What is hemorrhage? Lot of blood. Yes, lot of blood loss is called hemorrhage. BP varies from 1. So what are the factors which cause hypotension? Dehydration, hemorrhage, shock, myocardial infarction. What is shock?
Like a stress shock or?
No, not stress shock. What is, there is a condition called shock.
Heat stroke or something?
So shock is a critical condition brought on by the sudden drop in blood flow through the body. That is what is called shock. Shock may, it is any condition where blood flow reduces. And what could be the causes of shock? Allergic reaction, heat stroke, then any trauma or injury, lot of blood loss, severe infection, poisoning, severe burns or other causes. So these shock is any condition where blood volume reduces. Shock, sudden drop in blood flow throughout the body. Okay, so that is shock. So what are the conditions where you could have this hypotension? You could have a severe allergic reaction, any situation like a snake bite, poison, venom, okay, and then food allergy, severe food allergy.
So I have this.
Uh,
I have used to have my blood pressure 70 something or
Oh.
40 something.
That's
60.
low.
And I have this heart checking, so they found that I have bradycardia. So
Okay.
it's like because heart is strong, so in the rest it's pumping 33 times a minute. So doctor said it's fine, but you need to have salt intake if you exercise to
Good.
make stronger. But now you just open my eyes because I have also allergy.
Allergy.
So yes, I have soy allergy, for example.
So it is severe, is it? Severe soya allergy.
And it's like a level from 1 to 4. So 4 is maximum. So from my blood they make like 2. So it's not so.
Not very severe.
Yes.
But it is still there.
And this atopic condition of the
Atopic
skin.
condition.
So now I connected that it can be because of this.
So allergic reactions, vomiting, dehydration, any severe trauma, injury, burns in the skin, all that can lead to reduced blood flow or reduced lot of blood loss, or even oxygen supply to the blood can be cut off. So these are all conditions called shock, and there is also a condition called toxic shock syndrome. Okay, so this can lead to hypotension, fall of blood pressure, snake bite, bee sting. People have been, I know people in the family who have died of bee sting.
I heard also in my country.
Yeah. Okay. And what is? So idunallu ashte, it can vary for some people. For some people it can go, they can be aram se even with a low BP. For some people, even if 20 millimeters of mercury drops, then they can go into hypotension. They can exhibit symptoms. So what happens when low BP happens? Again, inadequate blood supply to the brain. So you could again get a stroke. Okay? It may produce brief unconsciousness, fainting. If this is prolonged, death may occur. Severe hypotension can be caused by sudden loss of blood, severe infection, heart attack, or severe allergic reaction. Okay? So, little bit of yoga here for just practical. Okay, nothing. I'm not going into depth because I'm not a yoga therapist. Okay, but I'm just giving you some pointers. Yoga and high BP ge to pacify the sympathetic nervous system. So when the blood pressure is high, sympathetic nervous system is working overdrive. We remember we did sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic nervous system is going overdrive when you are hypertensive, high BP. So what does yoga have to do? Yoga has to reduce the activity of the sympathetic and increase the activity of the parasympathetic to calm you down. Okay, so for that you can do Balasana, Shavasana. This will reduce the blood pressure. Then pranayama, cooling pose. Pranayama you can do Shitali, Shitkari. Yes, Chandra Nadi, Chandra Bedana. Then cooling poses, that is forward bends with head support. So not like an active Uttanasana that you do in Vinyasa. A simple forward bend, standing forward bend, maybe with a bolster or with your head on the chair or something like that. Wherever the head is down. Okay? Supported, we call it supported forward bend. Then secondary high blood pressure, which is caused by kidney disease, hormone abnormalities or type 2 diabetes. For this also you can use all these poses, Balasana, Shavasana and supported forward bends and cooling pranayama. These are the 4 things that you can do. Okay, so secondary BP, write down that also, secondary BP, high BP can be caused by kidney disease, hormone abnormalities or type 2. Diabetes can be the cause for every ailment in the body. Type 2 diabetes, not type 1 is what? Diabetes?
By birth.
Yes, acquired, juvenile diabetes or whatever, yeah.
Type 2 is for lifestyle.
Yes, lifestyle. And then what to avoid in high blood pressure? They say Dhanurasana, because it compresses the front of the diaphragm. So avoid Dhanurasana. Avoid this Mayurasana. Like you did today, that chin stand, and similar to that is that Mayurasana. Avoid doing those things. Then avoid unsupported headstand and handstand. You can do with wall support if it is under control, if your BP is under control and if your doctor says okay. You can do, but use a wall, so ask the student to use a wall. Okay? Then what you can do is downward dog with head support, Uttanasana with head support, Paschimottanasana with support. Support means what? What are the supports used in yoga?
Bolster,
Yeah. Chair, block, yes. Belt, yes, okay. But belt will become little more active. If you do Paschimottanasana with belt, it will become you are trying to pull yourself forward and all that. So better bolster. Bolster, cushions, pillows, chair support is excellent. And then these foam blocks, all that. And wall is an excellent support. When you have nothing else, wall is there. Then Halasana with chair support you can do. Viprita Karani on the wall. Janu Shirshasana with support. Then Supta Padangushtasana, there you can use a belt. Then butterfly pose. And relaxed or supported Setu Bandhasana for high blood pressure. Supported, relaxed Setu Bandhasana. And more things to avoid with when you have high blood pressure, when a patient has high blood pressure, especially if they are elderly, okay? Avoid heat generating poses, okay, like this Navasana, okay? Navasana, then avoid any deep back bending. Chakrasana you can avoid. Even Tadasana, what is that? Urdhva Hastasana, taking the arms up. Anywhere where they have to take the arms up, that gives, immediately it will raise your blood pressure. Even standing arms lifted up, that can be very challenging for somebody who has got high BP. Yeah. Then even Parshvakonasana, have you noticed, builds lot of heat generating. They can avoid doing a full Parshvakonasana. They can do Parshvakonasana with chair, one hand on the chair. Unsupported, avoid. And going down to the floor and trying to open up the shoulder and all, avoid doing all that when you have got high blood pressure. They may be flexible also, but let's not take chances. And then of course no camel pose and all that. Camel can be very, yeah. King pigeon, Natarajasana, deep twist, deep Ardha Matsyendrasana. Avoid binds also. Yeah. So these are to be avoided during high blood pressure. Even better to avoid Parivritta Parshvakonasana, twist.
So what they can really, like how to...
All, there so many are there.
Alright.
All the supported poses. Paschimottanasana with support. Viparita Karni, I like to do it on the wall, no? So many poses. They can just work on flexibility and then so many are there. Uttanasana, forward bend with support. And lying down, Supta Padangusthasana. Trikonasana with all those standing postures with supports. Chair or bolster. No deep standing poses, basically. Okay, so that's about it for this chapter. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.